Welcome to Aviation Academy. I help you become top of your class without the fear of failure or wasting time, because you deserve to perform at your highest level. My name is Tommy. I'm an airline pilot, flight instructor, and flight examiner. Now let's hand the word over to our favorite examiner, John. Good morning, Tommy. Go ahead and describe holding procedures for me. Certainly, John. Holding is a predetermined maneuver designed to keep the aircraft within a specified area to await further clearance. The holding can be either overhead a nav aid or a waypoint, or in the case of when holding on a radial at a specified DME distance or an intersecting radial. The holding is either standard or non-standard. Standard would be right turns in the hold and non-standard left turns. Let me explain. So let's take a look at the basic layout of the hold. So with the basic layout we have the inbound course. Let's start with that. Let's say it's 360, so the radial would be 180. You're holding on radial 180 from the station, which the inbound course would then be 360. Take note that on the inbound we are tracking towards the nav aid. After crossing the nav aid, we start, in this case, the right turns, because it's a standard hold, until we are abeam the station. When we're abeam the station, we can start a timer, or at when wings reach level, whichever occurs last, if you're still in the turn. So when you start a timer here in still air, it would be 1 minute until you're going to turn again, and then after 1 minute standard rate turn, you're going to start a timer inbound, and in perfectly still air, the total lap would be 4 minutes. Take note that in the turns we do standard rate turns up to 25 degrees of bank, whichever is less. The outbound limit here can be defined not just by time but also DME distance, for example, or a limiting radial from another station. Take note you should never fly past the limiting radial or the DME distance, regardless of the timing before commencing the turn inbound. For the basic hold, we have a protected area, MOC, minimum obstruction clearance, surrounding the hold, which gives us normally 984 feet or 300 meters. Or in mountainous terrain, it's the double amount, which would be 600 meters. So it's roughly 1,000 feet and 2,000 feet in mountainous terrain. Outside of that, there is a buffer area, which is extending up to 5 nautical miles, and it's surrounding the hold. Within the buffer area you also have protection, but it's gradually decreasing in increments to the outer limit, which it's all the way down to about 200 feet, so it's 197 feet on the outer limit. So, but you can see you have quite a lot of protection, and take note that you have more protected area on the holding side compared to the non-holding side. This here is the holding side. On the other side here is the non-holding side. Okay. Let's take a look at the case of wind in the hold. So when we have wind in the hold, there will be, let's start with the fix here, and let's say the wind is from this side. What's going to happen is, here we have the inbound course, is that we're going to have a higher ground speed in this turn and a bigger radius. Since we have a bigger radius in the turn, we have to make up for it to get back, or else we will just fly and we'll be pushed out, make the turn, and we'll end up way off. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at what our track is inbound, what is our wind correction angle inbound? Let's say just it's, in this case, it's 10 degrees. We have wind correction angle of 10 degrees. So we take the wind correction angle times 3 and we add that to the outbound. So when your beam or wings level, you start a timer and you set the heading 30 degrees towards the radial, in this case, towards the inbound track. So 180, and then you add 30 to it in this case, which will be 210 heading. So 210 heading until the timer elapses, and then you can start a turn inbound. Also take note if you have like a tailwind or headwind, you can see that clearly with the timer from wings level inbound to when crossing the fix. Let's say it's 45 seconds that you get here, 45 seconds. Then you can add the missing time up to 1 minute on the outbound. So you're correcting on the outbound, both in terms of the drift that you're having in the hold and also the tailwind and headwind. So John, would you like me to explain the hold entries? Okay, so there are 3 different types of holding entries. It's direct entry, parallel entry, and offset entry. Offset is also known as teardrop, often in the US. Let me explain. Okay, so for the entries, we have 3 different sectors. We have the direct, which is 180 degrees, defined by this line. The parallel, which is 110 degrees, and the offset, which is a 70-degree sector. Between the sector, we have a buffer of plus minus 5 degrees. So if you're basically just on the limit between a offset and a parallel, you can choose when you're within the plus minus 5 degrees between. And let's draw the HSI, which is basically the most important for us as pilots to be able to have the situational awareness on the instrument ahead of us. So let's start off explaining the direct entry. Don't worry, I'm going to explain why I have these strange words here, but it's going to make sense hopefully in the end. But let's start off with the direct. The airplane is, in this case, here in the direct sector, heading towards the holding or the nav aid. Let's say it's flying on a heading of 010 and the inbound course is 360, meaning the radial is 180, the radial heading on the outbound. On the instrument, we are flying with the CDI centered, and there is a little airplane symbol in the middle, which I strongly recommend for situational awareness to think about as the holding fix itself. That is the holding fix, okay? And you can kind of like just mentally in your mind move this little airplane just slightly down and say that it's here and we are flying this heading towards the fix. That's going to give a much better situational awareness, and you can, using this method, you can determine the entry within just a few seconds. So now we can, since it's a right turns in the hold, the sector of 70 degrees is on the right side. 110 is on the left side, and 180 is everything that falls below this line. Here you can use a finger over the HSI or just a pen, just hold it roughly at an angle like this. The number one thing is to locate the radial. Locate the radial itself. If you're going to locate the inbound course, take note, you would have to switch and have this on the bottom. But for this method, I suggest always look for the radial. It makes much more sense in terms of situational awareness to locate the radial. I'm not going to go into depth about the inbound course versus radial, but locate the radial you're holding on the HSI. That's step number 1. So the radial is 180, and I always like to think in terms of cardinals. So it's good to kind of like locate the cardinal headings, north, south, east and west, right? The radial is 180. So what we can do, we can kind of draw in the hold on the instrument itself, and it's going to be a accurate representation of where we are compared to the actual hold. So the hold will be on radial 180. So it will be something like this is the inbound course. Then after the fix, it's going to be a right turn and another right turn. And we are coming from here towards the fix. See, it looks the same. So it gives a perfect representation of where we are and how the hold is gonna, or what the hold is gonna look like. So step number 1, locate the radial. Step number 2, decide on the entry. Deciding on the entry is easy here because the radial is perfectly or almost perfectly in the middle of the direct sector. This is direct, or everything below this line is direct. Here on the smallest sector, it's offset, and here it's a parallel, same as this drawing. So now we have decided it's going to be a direct entry, and the reason I have same here is then it works for both a standard holding and a non-standard holding, because same means the direction of the turns. So if it's right turns in the hold, it's going to be right, same, right, or if it would be a non-standard hold, it's going to be left turns in the hold, so it's going to be left. So that's very good to have some easy words to remember like this, so you're not going to turn in the wrong direction when you're overhead the fix. So in this case, with the direct entry, you're going to fly to the fix, you're going to turn right to the outbound or the radial heading, fly 1 minute, after 1 minute turn right again to intercept the inbound. So in this case again it's going to be the same. So that's the direct entry. Now let's take a look at the parallel entry using the same method. Like this, okay. Okay, so if we're flying along, let's say here towards the fix, the heading is 190. And once again, remember the little airplane is the fix itself for situational awareness. So this is the fix. We are flying now, heading of 190, and we can of course hold the pen or the finger. It's gonna be, we know it's right turns in the hold, so the 70-degree sector is always on the right side, and that's the offset, parallel and direct. So in this case, step number 1, locate the radial. The radial is again 180. Of course now the HSI is turned differently, but it's the same procedure. Locate the radial, which will fall in this case slightly on this side, but take note, you're flying inbound on the radial, always inbound on the radial towards the fix, and it's a right turn. So after the right turn and right turn, you're established inbound, and you have done a parallel entry. And that will be opposite of the turns in the hold. So the direction of turns is right, so it will be a slight left turn, fly 1 minute, and another left turn all the way up to 270 degrees if needed to be established before passing the fix again. So again, for situational awareness on your instrument here, I strongly recommend thinking of the airplane shifted slightly below with the fix ahead of you, flying this heading. Step number 1, locate the radial within the different sectors, and the sector it falls within decides the entry you're gonna perform. And then you just need to know this by heart, that if you're doing a parallel, it's gonna be opposite, opposite. So in this case, it's gonna be left, left. Left to radial heading, 1 minute, and then after 1 minute, left again to intercept the inbound course. Next scenario is the scenario of offset entry. Now the airplane is here towards the fix. So in this case, let's say it's flying at 150 heading. Of course, with the CDI centered, flying towards the fix. Again, same. The fix is the little airplane is in the middle. That is the holding fix. And we are coming from here. And the divider is still the same because it's right turns in the hold. And now we have offset, parallel, and direct. Okay. Step 1, locate the radial. The radial is still 180. 180 is here, south, north, and west and east, okay, cardinals. So the radial is here. That means we can visually visualize the radial coming towards the fix, right turn, like this, okay? That is a correct representation of the hold based on our position. That means after crossing the fix, we are gonna do what it says here, opposite 30 degrees and then same. So we're gonna turn opposite 30 degrees of the radial. So opposite means it's right turns in this hold, so it's gonna be left in this case, left 30 degrees from the radial, and then after 1 minute we're going to turn the same direction as turns in the hold. So it's going to be left 30 degrees from the radial. After 1 minute it's going to be right to the inbound course. Take note that it's not necessarily a left turn or right turn after it depends after crossing the fix, because it's left in this case 30 degrees from the radial. The radial is 180. Okay, so left 30 degrees from 180, that is 150 heading for 1 minute. In this case, we don't have to do a turn at all because we're already flying 150. So we're just gonna fly after the fix for 1 minute and then make a right turn to the inbound. If we would have a heading of 140, it would be 10-degree shift of heading after crossing the fix to fly a 30-degree offset after the fix for 1 minute before turning inbound. So, but the important thing here is to know that always it's opposite of the turns in the hold, 30 degrees for 1 minute, and then the same direction as turns in the hold. So if you commit this to memory, you're never going to do a hold entry wrong, and you're going to be able to decide on the hold entries within just a few seconds and impress your instructor. So let's take one more example of hold entries when there's a non-standard hold. We're going to use the same procedure. Let's see. Yeah, just draw it all over again. So Now we have a holding fix here, and there's a left turn like this. So this is the inbound and this is the outbound. Now we can draw the line will be always like, it's a little bit too steep. It's gonna be like this. Offset, parallel, and direct, okay? So let's start off with an example of, let's say the airplane is coming here towards the fix. It's flying at a heading of 170. 170, that's going to be like this. Again, fix, fix. We are here always flying this heading, okay? That's our heading. And now, since it's on the instrument, the most important part for us for situational awareness is that this line changes if it's left or right turn. So with the right turn, it's always like this. If it's left turns in the hold, it switches like this. So the 70-degree sector comes on this side. So 70 here, 110 is there. That's the only thing that changes, okay? 180 is always on the bottom. So again, the steps are exactly the same. Step number 1, locate the radial. What is the radial? It's the same example as before in terms of it's just the direction of turns that has changed. So it's the same radial, it's 180. 180 is the radial. So locate 180. 170 is here. So 180 would be just here. And just to make it clear, 180 to the fix, left turn, another left turn. That's the hold. We are flying from here, and you can see it falls within the parallel sector. So the parallel sector, when we see that the radial is located within the parallel sector, we're gonna decide it's gonna be a parallel entry. And from memory, we know a parallel entry is always opposite. So opposite would be broken down in your mind just to right. After passing the fix, it's going to be right to radial heading, which is right turn heading 180, like this. And then after 1 minute, right to intercept the inbound course. You see? Again here, right, 1 minute, another right to the inbound. And then you're established in the hold. So this method works for both standard and non-standard holding. Okay, that wraps up the most important things to know about holding for a pilot. I strongly recommend to have a printout of the applicable procedures of the state that you're overflying, because there are differences between EASA and FAA, but they are mostly the same and based on ICAO standards. Thank you for watching. If you would like to see more, please like and subscribe.